Some of us are not even tired because it's the end of the year. We're tired because the same people have had premium access to us since 2021. If you're new here, welcome to Monday Over Negativity, or MON. If you're the type of person who's just like, give me the sauce, you can just skip to the timestamp below. Either way, you're welcome. The best way to spread Christmas cheer is singing loud for all to hear. And listen, you don't want to hear me singing that, but that doesn't mean forcing joy. It just means remembering we're almost there. It's Christmas week. You can get through today, and then you just need to get through tomorrow. And then it's going to be Christmas Eve, and then it's going to be Christmas Day. And yeah, you get those days off, which is always nice, and that's just the assignment. And if you couldn't get off on the 26th like I did, don't worry about it. We're gonna clock in together, and we're still gonna show up for the rest of the week, probably still tasting coquito and doing the bare minimum.
This is MON, still showing up.
Hosted by Dennis.
So I always start off with my MON stories because I think they're just amazing. And I love that you guys share, week after week. So this MON story, somebody wrote, and they said, last week I saw someone pulled over with a flat tire, hazards on. And I'm like, you know what? Let me be a good person today. So I pulled over and say, hey, I have a spare tire if you need help. And this person looked at me annoyed and goes, I'm good. You can leave. Okay. No, thank you. No appreciation, just attitude. So now I'm standing there like, oh, my bad for caring. I get back into my car embarrassed and humbled, questioning my character. People are just rude, right? There's good people, there's bad people out there. But you just need to realize sometimes you can, show up with good intentions and still be rejected. But at the end of the day, you still did right. And you know what? Maybe you didn't make his day, but that doesn't mean you stop being a good person and showing your character. One bad apple is not going to determine all the bad apples. Maybe even that small act of kindness will probably tell him not to be a Grinch during the holidays. But anyways, heavy on those boundaries because that's exactly what today's topic is about. And I want to start off with basically a picture. And we're going to call this the same spot picture. And it's going to make sense. But let me explain this, and let me explain boundaries like this. If someone keeps hitting the same spot on your arm, right? The first time, it surprises us. We're shaken. We say, it's not that serious, right? But then the second time, it hurts more. Now there's a bruise, right? And you keep punching, and then it keeps happening in that same spot over and over again. And then eventually it stops hurting, right? The same way that it did. Not because it's healed, it's because it becomes numb. And that's where we get confused and we start saying things like this. I don't know why I feel disconnected, or I don't know why I don't care like I used to, or I don't know why I'm tired all the time. And it's not because we're broken. It's because repeated impact without any protection changes us. And here's the part that we don't like to admit. Some people in our lives will keep hitting the same spot as long as we let them. Not always because they're malicious, but sometimes people are just very selfish with access. And access without boundaries basically teaches people what they can get away with. And it's sad, right? Boundaries aren't about being dramatic. They're about preventing repeated damage over and over again. So the question shouldn't be, right? Why am I different now? It's why did I keep allowing this? And who benefits if I don't stop before this year ends? And if that felt personal, good, because hopefully you're awake now. And why this is so important is because if we're exhausted and we can't explain why, it's probably not because we're doing too much. It's because too many people have access to us. Bad conversations repeated over time will break good character. And not because we're weak or we're damaged, it's because constant exposure changes how we show up. And that's why this episode really matters. And I'll put myself in that situation as a graduate people pleaser, okay? I used to overthink everything. Everything. What does this person think? Or did that come off wrong? Or should I have explained myself more? As I mentioned, I was a textbook people pleaser, gold star, honor roll, gold star like SpongeBob, okay? Let me send one more message just in case, the energy didn't hit right. And honestly, that's why I didn't start this podcast when I wanted to. Not because I didn't have the ideas, not because I wasn't ready, but because too many people had access to my confidence. And when we live for a response instead of alignment, we will always feel drained. Always. And you can also think of boundaries as this. And we're just getting warmed up. Boundaries are like the fence around the house, right? The fence doesn't mean, to let people in or that people are not welcome. It means that there's a front door, a closing time, and not everyone gets a key. Because love without structure is just vibes and resentment. And we're leaving that in 2025. Now, you might be thinking, okay, you're telling me about boundaries, but what steps do I take? Okay. And let's be very practical, not rules, no options. This is what you're going to do. Step one, I want you to stop explaining ourselves. If your boundary needs a whole paragraph, it's not a boundary. It's not a negotiation. I'm not available, and that's enough. And people should respect that. And if you feel the urge to add because, pause. That urge is your old programming, okay? We need to deprogram all of that. Step two, we respond slower. And yes, slower on purpose. You're not customer service. Just because your phone has Wi-Fi doesn't mean you owe anyone a same day response. So we're going to stop doing that. And fast response create entitlement anyways. And watch people's reaction when you do this, because healthy people will adjust and unhealthy people guilt, panic, and they start arguing. And if your boundary creates chaos, congratulations, you found the boundary. Now we reduce access before we cut it off. It's the same love, different distance. Some people don't need to be blocked unless you're like me, you like blocking people. They just need less updates. So this is what you should do to set these healthy boundaries for yourself, and it will help you little by little, and then you can do more. And let's be clear, this isn't about villains. It's about patterns. We might need to cut off the ones who only show up when they need something, or they get weird when you start doing something better, or they turn your nose into a whole argument, or need the old version of us to stay comfortable. Drains us every time we interact, or only respect us when we overgive, or the people that apologize repeatedly without change, or punish us for choosing peace. That's not communication. All of that I mentioned is manipulation in a quiet font. And if you thought about somebody and it felt very specific, good. Your intuition just got screen time, and your 2026 isn't about cutting off people dramatically. It's about cutting patterns off quietly. And let's be honest, a lot of us sometimes confuse, seasonal people with lifetime people. And that's okay because some people are seasonal. They were just assigned to a chapter, not the whole book. They helped us survive. They helped us grow. They helped us heal, but they can't help us sustain. And you don't bring survivor tools into a soft life. Lifetime people will respect your boundaries without punishing us for having them. And then seasonal people take growth very personally. That doesn't make them bad. It just means that their role is complete. So as you step into the week, I want you to think about these questions, and even you can save to come back and rethink about it. Notice if one specific person comes to mind, and it's just yes or no. Is there someone in your life right now who leaves you feeling drained more often than energized? Is there someone who doesn't respect your no without pushing, questioning, or guilt tripping you? Is there someone who feels you have to over explain yourself to just be understood? Is there someone who you hesitate to share good news with because you're not sure how they'll receive it? And lastly, is there someone where if you stopped initiating, the relationship would slowly disappear? And if someone came to mind while you were answering those and while saying, yes, that's not random. And that's something that I want you to think about of how you're going to develop and set those boundaries with that person, or think about the boundaries that will help you moving forward so you don't feel like that. And if you said no, then you already have boundaries in place. And congratulations to you. Now, and there was this law in the, 48 laws of power. And it's that successful people live by. Avoid the unhappy and unlucky. Not because they're bad people, but because patterns transfer. You don't rise to the level of ambition. You fall to the level of your environment. If you're surrounded by people who complain, people who stall, or people who just make you feel entitled to your time, your life will slow down no matter how motivated you are. And those are the people that you need to clip to this year. And here's the realization that changes everything, and changes everything for me as well when it comes to boundaries. Most people in your life aren't rooting against you. They're just comfortable with you staying where you are. Your growth disrupts familiarity. Your discipline creates contrast. Your boundaries exposes imbalance. So when you elevate, you'll notice less enthusiasm, subtle resistance, and awkward energy. And that's not hate, that's misalignment. And that misalignment will eventually require separation. And let me say something very personal and carefully. As you know, I started this podcast, I became aware of something I haven't seen before. And it was not everybody close to you wants what's best for you. And I don't mean, enemies. I mean people within arm's reach. People who don't sabotage loudly, but they'll wait, they'll watch, they'll compare, they'll stay close enough to benefit from you, but uncomfortable enough with your progress. And that doesn't make them evil. It makes them human, right? So I want you guys to think about all of this that I mentioned, and think about setting those healthy boundaries for the New Year's, not only for yourself, but because some of these people need it, okay? They're out here running the Lulu, And I'm one of them, but they're delulu enough to think that you don't have a fence around your house and that they just want to come in and poking and poking and poking. And I'm always backing things up with Jesus, and it's Christmas time. So let me ground this a little bit more in faith for a moment. When Jesus was born, he wasn't introduced to everyone. He wasn't accessible. He wasn't exposed. He was protected, moved quietly, not because he was weak, but because he was sacred. The Bible even shows us this, right? But Mary kept all these things and pondered them in her heart in Luke 2:19. Everything wasn't shared. Everything wasn't explained. Everything wasn't for everyone. God didn't rush to reveal. He guarded the process above all else. Guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. And that comes from Proverbs 4:23. So if God protected something holy while it was still becoming, why do we feel guilty for protecting ourselves while we're still growing? That's what boundaries are, right? All right, Mon family, thank you for tuning in. I'll see you same time, same place, still showing up. Bye now, and stay tuned for next week because you are going to get end of the year monthly chaos. You're also going to get the last Monday of the year, which is going to be an epic one. And I'm just so excited because we made MON into 2026. I love you all, my beautiful people. And don't forget MON Miss merch on shopmon.com. Until next time, bye now.